They called her barren. We refused. The ledger still exists. Her name under deficient stock. My name beside it. Failed assignment. But I was there. Every night. 8 months. She wasn't barren. The master wanted more slaves. Put us in a room. Gave order. We sat in separate corners. Silent. Refusing. They couldn't see it. Couldn't name it. Just saw absence. They punished her. Relabeled her. Sold her south. They punished me. Marked me deficient. But they never got what they wanted. The system had a gap. A place where bodies could still say no. Not safely. Not without cost. But possible. I'm 73 now. She disappeared. But the ledger lies. She was not barren. We refused. The paper becomes history. The witness gets buried. Stay. Bear witness. Because if no one hears this, the ledger wins. Will you let the paper truth stand unchallenged? The clerk read her label aloud. Unfit. He said it the way another man might say cloudy or cold. Just weather. Just fact. I stood 3 people back in the line. Close enough to hear. Far enough to avoid his direct gaze. She didn't flinch. Didn't drop her eyes. Just stood there while he wrote something in his ledger. The scratch of his pen sounded loud in the morning quiet. I remembered roll call as a child. 7 years old. Maybe 8. They stopped using names that year. Labels came faster. Easier to track. Easier to organize. Strong back. Quick hands. Sickly. Labels replaced everything else. My mother told me once, when they stop saying your name, you have to remember it yourself. Say it in your head every morning. Don't let it disappear. I kept my back straight. Eyes lowered just enough. Not defiant. Not broken. Neutral ground. The master stood beside the clerk, watching the line, calculating. I could see his mind working. Numbers. Profit. Efficiency. He looked at her. Then at me. Back to her. Breed her with Samuel. He said. Voice flat. Final. Like announcing the weather. Maybe that corrects it. The clerk made another note. Didn't look up. I learned early. Orders framed as observations sound more final. They skip the part where you might say no. Start at conclusion. Save time. The master didn't ask me. Didn't ask her. Just decided. Drew a line. I nodded one single movement. Silence felt safer than words. Safer than questions. They separated us from the group. Everyone else returned to the quarters. Back to familiar walls, familiar routines. We walked a different path, away from the main buildings, away from the eyes that would watch too closely. I walked behind her, watched her shoulders. Straight, steady. She didn't look back. We passed the quarters. Doors I knew. Spaces that used to mean shelter. Used to mean something close to safety. Now they meant distance. Meant leaving. We headed toward an outbuilding at the edge of the clearing. Small structure. Separate. I'd seen it before, but never entered. Didn't know its purpose until now. I slowed my steps. Matched her pace. She walked like someone carrying weight, but refusing to show it. The overseer opened the door. Gestured us inside. Didn't speak. Didn't need to. The door closed. Wood on wood. Heavy sound. Final. The room held almost nothing, a bed against one wall. Narrow, rough frame. A stool near the window. Marks scratched into the wall near the floor. Small lines. Grouped in 5s. Someone counting something. I counted marks. During fever once. 11 years old, sick for days, lost track of time. Counting marks on the ceiling kept me breathing. Kept me tethered. Light came through one window. Small. High up. Enough to see by. Not enough to feel open. The walls were bare with no decoration. No softness. Just function. I took the corner farthest from the door. Put my back against cold wood. Felt it through my shirt. She stood near the center of the room. Not moving toward the bed. Not moving toward me. Just standing silence filled the space between us. Not peaceful silence. Heavy silence. Waiting silence. I studied her face without staring. She looked maybe 20, maybe younger. Hard to tell. Work aged everyone faster than years. Her hands were calloused, Field hands. I could see it in how she held them. Loose. Capable. She kept her eyes level. Not pleading. Not resigned. Just steady. Looking at the wall. At the window. At nothing specific. An elder told me once. Protect what they call worthless. They'll destroy it faster. Won't even think twice. I stayed in my corner. Left distance between us. The room wasn't large, but I gave her all the space I could. Footsteps passed outside. Heavy boots. Overseers walk. They paused near our door. Listening, maybe. Checking. Then moved on, fading toward the main house. I breathed slower. Waited. The master's voice returned maybe an hour later. Just outside the door. Not entering. Not needing to. Compliance is expected. Not a question. Not a request. Statement of fact. I remembered inspections. Overseer walking the rows checking work. Hands lifting cotton bowls. Counting. Always counting. Measuring obedience like crop yield. I answered through the door. Yes. One word. Controlled. Flat. The voice faded down the path. Back toward the big house. Back to ledgers and plans. Night settled. Gradual. The light through the window shifted from white to gold to gray to gone. The order hung in the air between us. Unfinished. Present. Waiting. I remembered nights when stillness was the only weapon. I had. When moving meant losing. When breathing quiet meant surviving until morning. I kept watch. Listened to sounds beyond the walls. Wind moving through trees. Distant voices from the quarters. The crack and settle of cooling wood. Chickens roosting. A dog barking twice then quiet. A decision formed. Not in words. Not in discussion. In the space between us. In the silence we both chose. She sat on the floor. Back against the opposite wall. Breathing measured. Even. Not afraid of quiet. I watched her settle. Watched her choose her position. Deliberate. Claiming space. I learned calm from watching elders. Calm resists force better than panic. Panic gives them satisfaction. Calm makes them uncertain. I mirrored her stillness. Refused haste. Let time pass without filling it. Hours moved. The room darkened completely. No lamp. No candle. Just moonlight through the small window. Thin silver line across the floor. She didn't speak. I didn't speak. We sat in our separate corners. Breathing. Waiting. The first night ended. Morning came gray through the window. The system's expected result did not occur. No one came to check. Not that first morning. They gave us time. Expected nature to take its course. I stood when light came. Stretched stiff muscles. She did the same. We moved around each other carefully. Polite distance. The door opened around dawn. Overseer's face. Work assignments. He pointed at me. Fields. North section pointed at her. Laundry. We left the building. Walked separate paths. She toward the wash house. Me toward the fields. Work was work. Same as always, hands in soil. Say. Body moving through familiar motions. But I felt eyes. More than usual. People watching. Wondering. Not asking but curious. I kept my face empty. Gave them nothing to read. Evening came. We returned to the outbuilding. Same routine. Different day. Days passed. 3, 5, 7. The ledger expected. Progress. Numbers. Proof. Confirmation. I remembered ledgers closing before wounds healed. Before bodies recovered from sickness. Before children grew strong enough. Ledgers moved faster than flesh. Faster than healing. Paper didn't wait for people. When they asked, I reporting. Only prime served. Yes, we're there. Nothing more. The pressure returned. Subtle first. Questions phrased carefully. Everything proceeding. Eyes watching for hesitation. Then more direct. Any progress? To report. I kept answers minimal. Time will tell. These things take time. Nature moves at its own pace. They couldn't argue with nature. Not openly. Not yet. A visit came. The clerk. Same man who read her label. He arrived with his ledger, his pen, his counting mind. He stood outside our door. Asked questions through the wood. How many weeks now? Any signs? Any changes? I kept routines ordinary when he watched. Work, meals, sleep, nothing remarkable, nothing to note. But suspicion doesn't need evidence. Just deviation, just difference from expected pattern. The clerk started coming more often, 3 times a week. Then every other day, counting time like counting coin. She showed signs. Exhaustion, pale skin, dark circles under her eyes. The clerk saw them, misread them. I remembered illness in the fields, woman coughing blood. They called it laziness first, called it resistance. Punishment came before medicine, before help. The clerk watched her with narrow eyes, made notes, drew conclusions. I kept details hidden. When he came, I positioned myself between him and her, blocked sight lines, created angles that confused measurement. She looks unwell, he said one morning. Field work is hard. I answered, true enough, meaningless enough. He wrote something. I couldn't see what. The master's timetable tightened. Impatience grew. Time became threat. I heard rumors starting soft-achi first. Whispers in the fields, in the quarters, about deficiency, about body's failure. I knew rumors, seen them used. Watched them grow from nothing into justification. Punishment needs less proof when rumors prepare the ground. People started watching us differently. Not curious anymore. Judgmental, disappointed. We were becoming a problem. Problems drew attention no one wanted. I limited our contact outside the outbuilding, walked separate paths, ate at different times, reduced exposure, made us less visible. But you can't disappear completely, not when they're counting on you, waiting on you, expecting results. Then the announcement came, hand-delivered by the overseer. Inspection. Tomorrow morning. The word landed heavy. Inspection meant measurement, meant examination, meant proof, demanded. I'd seen inspections before. Medical inspections, market inspections, hands lifting chins, opening mouths, checking teeth, checking eyes, measuring worth. The inspection came at dawn. The clerk, a woman I didn't know, older, hard face, medical knowledge maybe, midwife possibly. They separated us. Me outside, her inside with the woman. I stood in the yard, overseer nearby, watching me watch the door. Time stretched. 10 minutes, 20, longer. The door opened. The woman emerged first. The clerk followed, face making empty, notes, always notes. She came, lass. Fussy, composed, unchanged. But I saw something in her eyes, quick, hidden fast. Anger maybe, violations certainly. The woman spoke to the clerk, low voice. I caught fragments. No signs. Nothing indicating, possible but unlikely. The clerk wrote it all down. His pen scratched loud in the morning quiet. They left without speaking to us. Back toward the big house. Back to report. She walked past me into the building. Followed. The door closed. They examined you, I said. Not a question. She nodded once. Didn't elaborate. I felt anger rise. Pushed it on ang was dangerous. And got you sold. Got you whipped. Got you disappeared. The ledger noted delay. Called it deficiency. Used ink to name failure. Permanent failure. Official failure. I'd seen it before. Deficiency becomes excuse. Excuse becomes justification. Justification becomes punishment. Word came 3 days later. The master wanted to see me. Climbed the back steps. Waited in the hall. He kept me standing. Power move. Reminder of position. You're failing, he said. Not angry. Disappointed. Worse somehow. These things take time, I said. Repeated what I'd said before. Time I've given. Result. Haven't see looked at me. Really looked measuring. Calculating. Perhaps the problem is you. I accepted blame. Turned their attention toward me. Away from her. If someone had to be deficient, better me. I'd survive it. Had before. Perhaps, I said. Simple. No defense. He studied me longer, then nodded. We'll give it more time, but not much. Consequences gathered like storm clouds, visible on the horizon coming closer. I returned to the outbuilding. She was sitting in her corner. Our corner now. Familiar positions. What happened? She asked. First full question she'd spoken to me. Bought more time. I said, not much. She nodded, face still composed. But I saw the fear controlled. Real. The system pressed harder. Impatient now. Demanding proof. Demanding results. What the master expected did not occur. Not on schedule. Not within the window ledgers required. I remembered waiting out storms. Counting breaths during fever. During pain. During fear. Letting time pass without forcing it. Surviving through stillness. I kept patience as strategy. As resistance, small resistance. Invisible resistance. But resistance nonetheless. Weeks became months. 2 months. 3 months. The questions became demands. Why hasn't this produced results? What's wrong with her? What's wrong with you? Labels shifted. Blame rotated. First her. Then me. Then boss. Then there became Achidan. Voice. Already angry. Already decided. Not interested in explanations. Failure to comply is defiance. Not accusation. Statement. Paper truth. Ledger truth. I remembered accusations that skipped evidence. Started at verdict. Worked backward. He ordered punishment. Public. Visible. 10 lashes. Reminder of expectations. Reminder of power. I accepted discipline. Outwardly. Body absorbing what body must. Pain I'd felt before. Would feel again. I kept my face empty during it. Gave them nothing to enjoy. Nothing to feed on. She watched from required distance. All slaves watched required. Lesson for everyone. Her face stayed composed. But I saw her hands. Clenched. Tight. Hidden in her skirts. The punishment ended. I walked back to the quarters. Steady. Unbroken. But punishment didn't end there. Couldn't end there. 2 days later. She was relabeled. Baron. New word. New designation. New future. The clerk announced it during morning assignments. Loud enough for everyone to hear. She stood still. Took the label. Wore it like all the others. I'd seen it before. Labels changing to fit outcomes. Paper rewriting flesh. Records more real than bodies. Barren slaves of limited use. The overseer said, not to her, to the group. Teaching moment. We'll find appropriate work. Appropriate meant harder. Meant less valuable. Meant disposable. I created distance from records after that. Stopped appearing in wrong places. Let my name fade from relevant pages. Became unremarkable again. Control shifted form. Same weight. Different pressure. The quarters absorbed the change quietly. No one spoke about it. Speaking made things real in dangerous ways. Made things visible. I moved work hours. Requested different assignments. Avoided notice. Stayed gray. Stayed invisible. Time passed under watch. Always analysis immediate. Months passed 6, 8, 10. The ledger closed with a convenient explanation. Master's failure became her flaw. System's failure became nature's deficiency. Ink preserved power. Preserved order. Paper outweighed truth. Always did. Always would. I stopped correcting lies when I heard them. Correction invited attention. Attention invited harm. Better to let lies live. Let them become history. The cost settled. On her shoulders. On both our shoulders. She bore consequences meant to erase agency. To prove the label right. To make paper truth match official records. Bodies pay for clerical certainty. I knew that. Lived it. Watched others live it. Die from it. I remained present. Not claiming credit for anything. Not claiming connection. Just there. Steady. Visible enough to be real. Invisible enough to be
Attention
safe. Faded. Slowly. The master found another scheme. Another plan requiring bodies. Requiring compliance. Requiring results. I watched patterns repeat. Different people. Same machinery. Same expectations. Same punishments. I kept our lives unremarkable. Gray. Forgettable. Survival through boredom. Danger receded. Slightly. Never gone. Never absent. Just distant. Manageable. What happened was rewritten. Official version called it failure. Her failure. Nature's failure. Anything biological system failure. Never system failure. Truth thinned until it could slip between cracks. Survive in margins. Live in silence. I stored the real account inward, where ledgers couldn't reach, where ink couldn't rewrite, where paper couldn't override. The master sold her south 2 years later. I watched them load the wagon. 6 people total, all relabeled, all reassigned, all being sent where labor was cheaper and life was shorter. She climbed into the wagon without help, back straight, face forward. She looked at me once, brief, direct, acknowledgement without words, then gone, wagon rolling south. Dust settling, I never saw her again. Years gathered like dust, heavy, obscuring, covering everything that came before. But memory stayed sharp, edges intact, details preserved. I survived longer than most, kept my head down, kept working, kept unremarkable. The war came eventually, distant first. Rumors of armies, talk of politics, abstract things that didn't touch us directly, then closer. Soldiers passing through, supplies requisitioned, young master going to fight, coming back wounded, not coming back at all. Lines shifted. Blue uniforms appeared where gray ones had been. Confusion, chaos, orders contradicting orders, papers burned, ledgers destroyed, records going up in smoke. The clerk fled south with whatever he could carry. Freedom arrived like sudden weather, unexpected, unbelievable, unprepared for. The Yankee officer stood in the yard, read from a paper. You are free. You may go where you choose. We stood in rows, same positions we'd stood in for morning assignments, for inspections, for punishments. No one moved. The officer looked confused. You're free, he said again, louder, like volume would make it more real. Still no one moved. Finally an elder stepped forward. Where we gonna go? The officer didn't have an answer for that. Freedom without resources, without land, without protection, without preparation, but freedom nonetheless. I walked north, followed roads I'd only heard about, passed through towns that had different rules, different eyes, found work in a railroad camp. Hard work, dangerous work, but wage work, money in hand at week's end. Found something like safety in a boarding house, shared room, shared meals, people who didn't own me, built a life from fragments. Small life, quiet life, unremarkable life, but the memory stayed. That room, those nights, those months, the choice we made without words. The system called it failure, called her barren, called me deficient. Permanent labels, official history, the ledger in les officiales, paper truth that outlived flesh truth. But I remembered the real truth, the truth that lived beneath the paper, behind the ink, outside the records. She wasn't barren, I wasn't deficient. Zlozwals riskonvniali, singlais. We refused, not loudly, not visibly, not in ways that invited immediate death, but refused nonetheless. We refused through stillness, through silence, through the absence they couldn't name directly. The master wanted breeding, wanted more property, wanted bodies to replace bodies, wanted human crop yield. We gave him nothing, not compliance, not the result he demanded, not the outcome his ledger expected. Night after night, week after week, month after month, we sat in that room, in our separate corners, silent, present, refusing they could force us into the space, force proximity, force time, force presence. They couldn't force the act itself, not without admission, not without witnesses, not without visibility, and the master wanted discretion, wanted the appearance of natural compliance, wanted clean ledgers, wanted numbers that justified his methods. He needed us to comply willingly, needed it to look like obedience, like nature, like success. So we used his need for appearance, his need for documentation without witnesses, his need for paper truth. We weaponized the privacy he thought served him. Month after month, the pressure built, The scrutiny increased. The inspections multiplied. The consequences fell. But we held, both of us, in silence, in separation, in refusal. They couldn't see it, couldn't name it, couldn't prove it. Just saw absence of result, absence of proof, absence of expected outcome. They punished her for it, relabeled her, reduced her value, sold her south, disappeared her into machinery. They punished me for it, marked me as deficient, reduced my status, made me example. But they couldn't make it happen, couldn't force the outcome, couldn't create the result ledgers demanded. The system had a flaw, a gap, a place where bodies could still say no. Small place, dangerous place, costly place, but possible. I carry that truth now, 40 years later. Old man with gray hair, free man with small room, working man with wage. I carry the truth that her label was lie, that my failure was choice, that our deficiency was refusal. The world believes the ledger. History believes the records. Scholars will read those documents, will cite those sources, will accept that paper truth. But I know what we did, what we refused, what we protected. They wanted to make more slaves. We gave them nothing. Empty months, wasted time, failed investment. They wanted compliance that looked like nature. We gave them time and silence and absence. They wanted our children born into chains. We gave them empty rooms, unmarked wombs, unmet expectations. The elder was right. Protect what they call worthless. We protected the most worthless thing, our agency, our choice, our refusal. She was called unfit, then barren. Both lies. Deliberate lies. System lies. She was unbroken, unbought in the place that mattered most. A noun where ownership claimed to be absolute. And I was her witness, Eracon her silent partner in refusal. We never spoke about it, never named it, never confirmed it even to each other. But we knew, both of us, in that silence, in that space, in those months, we knew we were refusing. We knew we were resisting. We knew we were protecting. And we knew the cost. Knew it before we started. Knew it as it fell, know it, he stew. She paid more than I did. Women always did. Her body was examined, measured, declared deficient, then discarded. I don't know what happened to her. Don't know if she survived the Deep South. Don't know if she lived to see freedom. Don't know if she's alive now. But I know she wasn't barren. Know it with certainty. Know it with witness truth. The system stands in memory. Its power remains in archives, in records, in history books. But its measure was false, its control incomplete. Is found the gap we leave near. We survived it. We used it. Not for long. Not without cost. Not without pain. We did it, and here. The ledger remains unchanged. Paper truth outlives flesh truth. Official history outlives lived history. But the truth lives in telling, lives in memory, lives in witness. She was not barren. I was not deficient. We were not compliant. We refused. Small refusal. Invisible refusal. Costly refusal. Dangerous refusal. But refusal nonetheless. The system wanted absolute power. We gave it small limitation. We gave it human friction. We gave it failure. Not heroic failure. Not dramatic failure. Not notable failure. Just failure. Just absence. Just no. I tell this now because the ledgers are being preserved. Because historians are collecting records. Because someone needs to say, the paper lies. Not always. Not in everything. But in this. In us. In her. The paper lies. She was not barren. We refused. That's the truth. That's the testimony. That's what happened. The master died before the war ended. The plantation was burned. The quarters collapsed. But the ledgers survived. Always do. Paper outlives wood. Records outlive memory. So I speak it now. Create counter-record. Create witness document. Create alternative truth. She was not barren. We refused. Small refusal. Invisible refusal. Human refusal. And it mattered. Maybe only to us. Maybe only in that moment. Maybe only in that room. But it mattered. The system wanted absolute compliance. We gave it limited compliance. We gave it bodies without surrender. We gave it time without result. That's what happened. That's the truth. That's what I carry. The moral weight settles like evening. Heavy, unavoidable, present. We survived through refusal. She disappeared through refusal. I'm free through refusal. The cost was real. The pain was real. The consequences were real. But so was the choice. So the age, so was the dinu. Speak now into silence. Into historical silence. Into the silence that swallowed her. Into the silence that preserves ledgers over witnesses. She was not barren. We refused. The paper lies. That's my testimony. That's my witness. That's my truth. The ledger remains. The lie remains. The label remains. But so does this. So does the telling. So does the counter-truth. She was not barren. We refused. And that refusal mattered. In that room, in those months, in that space where the system thought it owned everything. We found the gap. We used it. We paid for it. And now I speak it. We survived decades late. But spoken nonetheless. She was not barren. We refused. That's what happened. That's the truth. The system stands. The ledger remains. The silence continues. But the truth is spoken. The witness is recorded. The testimony is complete. She was not barren. We refused.